Hello and welcome into Reality Check. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary. I'm joined as always by Jeremy, aka Jets Chaos, and we got the official breaking news right before hopping on just 30 minutes ago. Dante Moore made his decision on whether or not he would enter the NFL draft. Obviously, a big story. He is going back to school, so that's where we will begin. Jeremy, your reaction, my friend.
It's mixed. I was kind of like in this torn world, and I'm not, this is nothing against Dante Moore. This is me not saying, I'm not saying that Dante Moore will not be a good NFL quarterback. I'm saying that I was very unsure of that. Like, I was not convinced that I don't know that he's going to be good. I don't know that he's going to be bad, but he wasn't one of those guys where I was jumping up and down screaming, we got to get him. This is a generational guy. I'm so confident he's going to be good in the NFL. He's one of those roll of the dice to me. Like, he might end up being a good NFL quarterback. He might not. I think I'm more disappointed because we don't have the option of, like, there's no one to trade up for now. Our number 2 pick is not that as valuable because there's no one that really a team is going to give a big haul of picks to trade up with. I got to say, but part of me is feeling relieved because I think if he came out, we would have taken him. And, and I would have felt pretty uneasy about that. Like, I would have hoped, and I would have been the biggest supporter of him, like saying, man, I hope he's good. And I would have rooted for him and hoped for the best. But I would have felt really uneasy about it because he just seems like one of those guys, like, it's just so hit and miss.
No, absolutely. It absolutely is. And I shared that same worry with Dante Moore. I think it would have been a big gamble. And not saying that he can't be a good quarterback, right? Like, I think there's obviously tools and traits that get people excited, but I don't think he was a surefire can't miss guy. If he was him, he would have went number 1 overall. So certainly some risk there. I really wanted to start with maybe the most brain dead comment that I have ever seen in my 8 years of doing content on YouTube and the internet. Mark says it's crazy how Matt tried to convince Jets fans that Moore wouldn't want to come out because the Jets were picking number 2. Well, you just got your answer, Matt. It was 100% the only reason why he isn't declaring. So you're telling me if the Arizona Cardinals or Cleveland Browns were picking number 2, Dante Moore is getting up there on the podium today and saying, I'm coming out, I'm entering the NFL draft. That's the argument. We're just not going to listen to any of the things that he possibly said about going back to school and having unfinished business because they didn't win the national championship, or, hey, I played like absolute dog shit in my last college game against Indiana and I didn't look that good. I need to go back and work on my craft. That's not possibly the answer. The answer instead is that the Jets are in this tier of their own below organizations like the Raiders, the Browns, the Cardinals, and the other teams that suck. And who's to say, Jeremy, that in 2027, the Jets don't have a top 5 pick again? And guess what? Maybe Dante Moore is the pick in 2027. So then what, Dante Moore? You skipped a year. You cost yourself $50 million this year for an NIL deal, and you got drafted by the team anyway? That makes 0 sense.
It's just such a stupid thing to pretend to know that. Like, what an arrogant, stupid comment in that sense. Like, I know because I'm smarter than the rest of the world, and it's ignoring all the evidence of everything else. How many of the Oregon Ducks that could have come out and declared for the draft didn't and said we're going to run it back? These guys got humiliated. They got embarrassed. What seems much more likely to be the reality is that they said they all, as a group, got together and said, we want to come back and do this again. We want to win a national championship. Because Washington, the defensive tackle, decided to stay in school. Why did he decide to stay in school? He was a very high-rated player. He'd be drafted in the end of the first round if he came out, or maybe the beginning of the first round. Come on, man. These guys, they were all like texting each other. This all got leaked, that they were all saying, run it back, run it back. Well, you know how college kids are. But the thing is to sit there and say, oh, I know for a fact that it was because I'm going to go to the Jets. This is why I'm so against the sportscasters who created this nonsense, this ridiculous narrative. 90% of quarterbacks that get drafted, unless there's a trade and something weird, 90% of the guys that get drafted by the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFL draft are going into a lousy situation. That's why the team has the draft pick, right? So you think next year the team that's going to pick him in the top 5, if that's where he goes, if he still thinks I'm going to be a top 5 pick next year, do you think he's thinking, oh, I'm going to go to the Rams? Like, what do you think he's thinking? He's going to go to Cleveland, or he might go to us anyway, because we're going to suck. Like, there's no guarantee that he's not going to be a Jet. And why would it be specifically the Jets? Like, oh, that's the one bad team but because this idiot Lachey or whatever the hell his name is decided to say it. Like, would the Raiders be a better place to go? Are the Raiders a good place to go right now? Who has a better offensive line, the Raiders or the Jets?
The Jets do. The Raiders' offensive line's still in shambles.
Right. So I don't understand this. And even if it's your opinion that somehow this guy and his agent and his whole team decided they got brainwashed by these sports announcers that created this ridiculous narrative that you don't want to go play for the Jets, even if you believe there was some chance that would happen, how would you know that? How would you know that that's the reason? To say it publicly, it's because he didn't want to be a Jet. What would you say? What evidence would you say to say that and declare yourself correct? I just don't understand it. I'm sitting there and I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe if he didn't declare because he specifically doesn't want to be a Jet, I'm not saying that's impossible because I don't know. I'm not him. But I think that would be really stupid on Dante Moore's part. And I also think that the evidence suggests, like, and clear thinking and logic would suggest that that's much less likely to be the reason.
Just coming out on fire out of the gate here. Had to start with that one to get this thing rolling, but I don't know how that could possibly be the reason. I get it. The Jets are a bad team. There are plenty of other shitty teams and shitty owners in this sport. Right. NY Guy 89 chimes in with the super chat. Wanted to pull his up. Sorry, Jeremy. Do you have something else to say?
I was going to just say what makes Dante Moore different than any of the quarterbacks who have accepted and came out into the draft knowing they were going to get drafted by a shitty team. What makes Dante Moore so special? Like you said, the guy who just came up, the guy who hasn't done it against a good defense, really. The guy who just got destroyed. And I'm not blaming him completely, right? Their offense, like Indiana dominated it wasn't just a one-person loss. They dominated the offensive line of what they did everything. But I just who do you think he is? I get to pick my team. Who's this guy? He's not generational. Like he would be if he wanted to come out. He's not going to not come out or come out based on the team that's going to draft him. He has no idea where he's going to end up next year. No idea. So like it makes no sense to say this is the reason I'm not going to come out. But anyway, let's go to our super chat.
Yeah, thank you. NY Guy says, take a flyer on Chambliss or Simpson. Take another quarterback in 27. We have to get the quarterback right. It's been too damn long. Reset 2, Bain at 16 if he's there. So a couple parts to this. Let's start with the quarterbacks. So clearly there's not going to be an option for the Jets at 2. Do you have any interest in Trinidad Chambliss or Ty Simpson, whether it's at 16, trading up back into the first round, or taking them in the second round at 33 or 44? Any interest there?
I'm not really against anything they do in the second round for when it comes to quarterback. Like if they love him, I love Chambliss. Like I love his film. I think Simpson could potentially be very good as well. I think they're both have the potential maybe to be good quarterbacks in the NFL. So they could do whatever they want with the second pick. Like, I mean, with the second round pick, like I'm not going to be all crazy about it. Like either way, one way or another, there'd be some excitement there even. But here's my issue. Here's my problem with it. Right. And it's the hack and shit. I call them hack and shit. The hack and shit problem. My biggest fear would be you draft one of these guys. They don't really play. You don't see them, so you don't know anything. And then in 2027, you pass on quarterback. And then one of these guys turns out to not be the guy, and then you're left with nothing. That's my biggest fear. I would almost say I would only want them to take a flyer on one of these guys with a second round pick, which is still a very valuable pick, if they were planning on giving that guy an opportunity. Maybe not starting the season, but at some point during the season, letting them play so we would know what we have.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's a little bit different too, and I understand the comparison with the Christian Hackenberg thing, right? Because he was second round pick, and they didn't see he didn't play any games in the NFL, but in 2016, it was like, "Hey, we wanna see what we have from him," the whole thing, whatever, right? But at least you have multiple first round picks and multiple second round picks. You have 4 top 40 picks. So if one of your 2 second rounders is a quarterback at 33 or 44, I don't hate it because it's probably insert your favorite, stopgap option starting 9 games and this second round pick starting probably the other half of the season in that scenario.
Yeah, yeah. Because we have to have that information. Like, I would be so pissed if we drafted one of these guys, didn't play them the whole year, and then passed in 27. I mean, you have to at least have a plan to, like, get the information if you knew you did the right thing. Um, Look, I think these guys are these like Chambliss. It's hard to know for sure with these guys because the issue with Chambliss, he came out of nowhere, right? So there's a lot of hesitation there, and 90% of the people that like him based on one game, and that's a problem when you like a guy on one game. I like him not because of I'm not pretending I did any film study. I like him because Dom C told me about him way before that game against Georgia. Like, Dom C loved this guy and had him ranked in his top 3, I think, for this draft. I think I don't want to misspeak for Dom, but that made me really interested because I said, "Oh, Dom wouldn't just do that out of nowhere. There's something he really likes about this kid." And then all of a sudden, he puts up this great game against Georgia. So it's like, holy cow. So there's it's interesting. Simpson, I just think we need more of a look, right? I mean, I think you just need to see more of him. But if they decide that they love him, they do the analysis and love him, I just have to see them play. I cannot agree or sign on and be in favor of signing one of these guys and saying we're going to pass on a quarterback in 2027 without seeing these guys.
Correct.
And right, I just can't. That's just way too much of a dart throw.
And for the second part of this, he says resets to Bain at 16 if he's there. Would you essentially double up on edge rushers? Because that's what that would be doing. I think personally, if it's reset 2, I'd be looking at either Sonny Styles or Mekhi Lemon with the second first round pick.
Well, I mean, Bain is not going to be there at 16. At least I don't think so, unless something happens weird. Like, I just don't believe he's going to be there.
I don't think
in this scenario, though. If he was there, I would take him, even if I took Reese. I mean, only because it's just like I mean, they're different kind of players. Like Bain, right? You're going to line up. He's just going to go for, he's an edge. He's going to go for the quarterback every play. Even if we switch to a 3-4, he's going to be an outside linebacker. Whereas Reese is very versatile. Like, Reese is really good in coverage. He's really, he has a lot of versatility. He could be all over the place. So if you had a chance to bring in 2 guys that are this potentially needle moving with such high ceilings, I wouldn't be against it. But then again, I wouldn't be against taking Mekhi Lemon either because I love Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, I think he would be a really nice compliment to Garrett Wilson. So that's personally my preference in that scenario. And White Guy would later clarify what he was saying, just to confirm quarterback with 33 is what I meant. I don't mind that, assuming you're getting 2 really impact players. And you still also have pick 44. So, with 4 top 50 picks, like we've been saying, you could take that risk using one of your second rounders and see. And who knows, maybe, like, let's use Ty Simpson as the example. You take Ty Simpson at 33, he starts, he's not great. Then, okay, you could use your first round pick on a quarterback, and at least you have your long-term backup. Like, kind of like a Davis Mills situation with the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that if you're a Jets fan, I don't know how you could argue. Like, first round, I could see the argument, right? Like, you have to be worthy of the number 2 pick. You can't reach for a quarterback with them. We see teams suffer for a long time when they do that and they make that mistake. As soon as you get out of that first round and you get into that second round, if their personnel department fell in love with somebody, if they take one of those guys, I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to hope for the best. I'm going to say, I hope you're right, because it's a valuable pick. 33 is a valuable pick. There's going to be really good players on the board. So if you take one of those quarterbacks, it better be because you did a lot of research, and you better bring in a veteran coach, a quarterback coach or someone with experience that has a proven record that can develop a quarterback. Because either of those two selections at 33, either of those two options, they're going to need a good coach to develop.
Absolutely. Dominique chimes in and says, struggling seeing the situation from AG and Darren Muji's view. I think it puts them in a really tough spot because there's a lot of pressure on them to win next year. Like, I know that they've sold Woody Johnson on this being a rebuild, and they have all the picks in 2026 and 2027. But tell me if you feel differently. I think if they win 4 or 5 games next year, that's probably not enough for them to keep their job and get a third year going into 2027.
This might save their job because it's going to force them to be more aggressive in free agency and bring in
Good point.
a quarterback that gives them a chance to show some improvement. It doesn't mean that that's going to be that it could still be a bridge. It's obviously where they're planning on drafting one, but I don't know. Was Dante Moore? I mean, again, I know there are people that love him, so they'll answer that question. Yes. Again, I'm not an anti Dante Moore person, but I don't know if I'm AG. I don't know if, like, again, he's not a generational type pick, right? So is that what you would have bet your job on? That Dante Moore's going to come in as a rookie and win you enough games to save your job? Like, I don't know. Like, they might have a better chance to save their job if they brought in a Malik Willis who has a few years, who's looked really good. Small sample size, he might be a complete bust, but even that's a stretch. I mean, maybe trading for Kirk Cousins, right? You know,
Yeah,
like, or
he
like
redid his contract too, so that's a little bit more palatable, right? And you have a million day 3 picks. You want to toss one of those at Atlanta? I don't
see
hate
this.
it.
This is what I hate about what I really don't like about coaches that are in situations where you have a guy that's on the hot seat where they have to save their job because they're going to make a decision that might not necessarily be the best decision for us long term. Like, they're going to make a decision based to save their job, and sometimes the decision to save your job is not the best decision for the organization. So that worries me a little bit. But I think that they have no choice. I think that, like, I mean, if I'm them, I'm trying to save my job, right? My job, yeah. Well, it's best for the organization after I save my job. Obviously, everybody is going to self-preservation. You're going to try to save your job. So what are you going to do if you're trying to save your job? You're going to go after the best possible, most proven quarterback that's competent that can give you a chance to win.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's certainly a risky run when you have a guy who's on a seat that's that hot going into a year. Is like you said, they may make short-sighted decisions for the short term rather than looking at the long term. And they probably need a mix of both, right? Like, I don't think they're going to go nuts and, trade a bunch of the 2027 draft capital, but I do think they're going to be aggressive, like you said, in free agency, in trying to find at least a competent stopgap option. The comments were talking about Mac Jones before, Malik Willis, Marcus Mariota. Like, they got to find somebody who could come in and start some games and at least be okay.
Yeah, and they better get, like, if you got a Malik Willis, for example, you better sign a backup quarterback like a Jameis Winston, someone who, if he's a complete bust, gives you still some hope of competency at quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love, there's parts of, like, the Malik Willis theory that I really like, because he's a guy, like, you look at Young for Carolina, right? Malik Willis, did he get his third year at Tennessee? Did he ever really get a chance? Then he goes to a good coach, good situation in Green Bay. Small sample size, I get it, but looked really, really good. And even looked like a really good leader on the sideline. We all got to see that if we were watching the Green Bay. I love the upside of a guy like that. I mean, that could be your answer, right? Which would be wonderful. But man, if he misses, if you're thinking like AG, like if he comes in and as soon as he's not in Green Bay in that perfect situation or a good situation, he stinks. And now we have another Justin Fields situation where he just goes back to the Tennessee Malik Willis. You better have somebody else behind him
that you can go to and look functional. That's a great point. Nick chimes in, says, is there any world Mooj shocks everyone and sends a haul to the Raiders to take Mendoza, or we continue to build the team in other areas, wide receiver, linebacker, safety? Well, let's start with the first part of that. I would be very, very surprised if the Raiders took a trade out. I just think, they're going to end up saying we got to find our quarterback. Whoever they bring in at a head coach is going to say the most important positions quarterback. We have the Heisman winner sitting there in Fernando Mendoza. We're going to take him with the number one pick. Especially with no Dante Moore, I have a very, very hard time seeing this go any other way.
It's really, really difficult to imagine a world where the Raiders would trade out of that pick unless whoever they hire doesn't like him, like doesn't match his offense, and that person says, "Nope, I'd rather run it with Geno Smith. He's under contract and get my guy in 2027 that I want." That would be the only hope. It would be so unlikely. It would be so. I mean, that would. I mean, it's hard to even imagine. I think that's the kind of thing that would be just we wake up and get shocking news, right? And then
Yeah.
some people, depending on what we trade, some people are going to hate it, some people will love it, you know. But I don't think it's the kind of thing that that you could really. It would be shocking, but it wouldn't be shocking because Moogs did it. It would be shocking because the Raiders did it. It would be more shocking on that the Raiders actually said, "Nope, we won't take a quarterback," even though we're rebuilding, getting a new coach. They're probably recruiting the new coach based on Mendoza. That's
Mendoza,
probably
yeah.
the selling point. You know,
I would think so. I
yeah.
really would. As for the second part with the building out the other areas, assuming there's not a trade out option for the Jets at number 2, which I don't think there is without another quarterback. In your mind right now, subject to change, obviously, still a long way to go. Perfect scenario, picks at 2 and 16 or what to start rebuilding this roster?
I mean, I like Arvell Reese. That'll be my guy for now. It could change after the combines. Things could change, but for right now, my guy is Arvell Reese because he's one of the things I really love about him is that he's versatile for any kind of defense. It doesn't matter if our new defensive coordinator wants to play a 3-4 or 4-3. Does not matter. Like Arvell Reese is a true defensive player. Like he could play standing up. He could play. You can put. There's so many options of where you could put this kid. So I love him. I love him by far. He's to me the best player in this draft, positional player. So it's an easy no brainer for me. Knowing who's going to probably be on the board realistically for us, it's either Mekhi Lemon or once we take Reese, then Sonny Styles. Like the urgency for him drops, right? Because we just there's no reason to. He'd still be a great player, but I would go for the offense and I would take Mekhi Lemon because how nice would it be to have a playmaker on opposite of Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I think I agree with you with Reese at 2. I also like the edge rusher Bailey from Texas Tech. That might be in play for me with the first of the 2. And then at 16, I have a hard time thinking Sonny Styles gets there. I think he probably goes before 16 at this point, but if he's there, it's either him or wide receiver. And I think Lemon would be the best wide receiver available to the Jets at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I don't want to say in any of the scenarios I'd be happy. Like if they decided to go edge with that second pick and then take Sonny Styles, you're not going to see me complaining or crying about it. Like I understand it's a 2-year rebuild. Like as much as I want a weapon, I know that we can get that weapon next year. We're going to have 3 picks to do that. And then this year would just be, okay, let's look what AD Mitchell looks like when Garrett Wilson's on the field and he's not the number 1 receiver and he's just a number 2 receiver. Maybe he'll be forgotten about and actually shine, stand out a little bit as a good number 2 receiver. But and then we'll get if he doesn't shine, if he doesn't explode and take off, which is more like he probably won't, we have plenty of picks to get that other weapon, right? So, but I think ideal would be get me a top-notch defender at 2 and get me Mekhi Lemon at 16.
And just to follow up on this comment too, asking, do you think Reese becomes a full-time edge? Does he do the hybrids thing or stay at linebacker who blitzes? I think he would be an edge rusher at the next level. Just watching his game seems, I'm not saying he's going to be Micah Parsons because he's kind of in a class of elite, but a player in that capacity who translates to the next level and is a double-digit sack guy every year coming off the edge. That's how I personally think Reese pans out the next level.
I think in a 4-3 for sure. In a 4-3, he's playing edge. I think in a 3-4, I think then it's going to be, they could be a little different. Like he might pick up coverage sometimes, and they might do some different things with him. But he'll still be a double sack guy. Like I'm not saying he's going to be a guy like you're going to use him like Sherwood, and he's going to always be covering, or you're going to not, like, or you're going to use him like Williams, where he's barely sometimes blitzing. No, I mean, like, no matter how you use him, I agree that his number one weapon for us is going to be pressuring the quarterback. That's going to be the number one utilization of him.
I like this one from Free Game. Says, man, what about Caleb Downs? 2 may be too high for a safety, but he's a perfect fit for an Aaron Glenn defense. Have to imagine they find a way to land him, either trading down from 2 or up from 16. 2 seems really high for a safety. And it would not, I'm telling you now, it would not be my personal preference. However, I don't know how anyone who has watched the Jets safety play over the last couple of years and would sit there and be like, wow, I don't know why they possibly did this. Like, I see a lane where they do that. And again, I would prefer the edge rusher because I think it's more valuable. But safety has been so bad for so long. I can't hate them for making this move. I get it.
No, I mean he's a special player. Like it's hard to be. I'd be surprised. And I agree with you. It's really the position. It's really hard to think about a safety at 2 because it's just the impact, like the way it moves the needle, right? I mean, he would have to be legendary for that to make sense. Like he'd have to be like, he'd have to be like freaking, I don't know. Think of like one of the top 3 safeties that like Ed Reed, Ronnie Lott. Like he'd have to literally deliver and have that kind of career to even justify it, because there are a lot of good safeties in this draft that you can get in the second round. Like that's one of the positions where I feel pretty good about. So it's just hard, man, to justify, because we can get someone really solid in the second round if we really care. If this is the year we're really going to go after that safety.
Right. And I also happen to like the free agent class at the position too. Like Cam Curl, we saw the Rams paid their other safety whose name's escaping me at the moment. So I don't know if they're also going to pay Cam Curl, but that would be a player that I would target in free agency. And like you said, there are guys, especially at the top of the second round, that I think could be valuable for them at either 33 or 44 at that position.
Yeah. I'll tell you how I've gotten Downs in mock drafts. I've traded down.
Okay.
Like in mock drafts, I've traded down with the Giants, with Cleveland. You're not going to get a lot back. That obviously there's no Dante Moore that someone's trading up for, like Cleveland would be trading up for, like in that scenario. But it doesn't mean they're not in love with a player. It doesn't mean it's impossible that a team like right behind us a few spots, that we can go down a couple of spots, still get Downs and pick up an extra second round pick or something. So I could see it in that scenario, but just picking him straight up at 2, just hard because, safety.
Yep. No, I hear you. Blitz Crew chimes in, says, just joining. People thinking BPA at 2, Lemon at 16, and a round 2 quarterback versus a vet, ? Which quarterbacks are round 2 grades would be fine with Downs at 2? I think the 2 names you're going to see the most are Ty Simpson and Trinidad Chambliss. I think those are the 2 names that are going to get brought up the most for the Jets in the second round. I think Ty Simpson, he had a really good start to his year, and it felt like his stock was rising. And I get why people like him. And for Trinidad, something huge for him, Jeremy, is what does he measure in at? Because he looks small, and we don't really have an official listing for him. So if he comes in at like, I don't know, 5'10", are we taking him at 5'10" in the second round?
Man, that's so hard. I know people get so annoyed at that. Like, whoa, who cares? You look at him on the field. But like statistics don't lie. Historical statistical data doesn't lie.
Right.
It's really, really hard in this league. Like when you have to see over a 6'5" line, like it's not easy. And you have to be so special to be able to overcome that kind of thing, right? It's such an outlier thing. I don't think he's that short though. I thought he was like 6 feet 6'1", but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that. He looks small on the field. I'm not gonna lie. He looks small. Yeah. So
We got a lot of too small comments in the chat, which
yeah.
I kind of tend to agree. Anyway, back to the chat here. A lot of people tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in for this one. We're reacting live to the news that Dante Moore is going back to school and what's in it for the Jets now.
I just want to say one thing. I'm so happy the Steelers lost and that Aaron Rodgers didn't make any difference for them at all. And they had the typical Steelers year, winning record, one game in the playoffs and they're out. Like, I'm just so happy that happened. So happy. I'm so happy that Shiva Krishkanana, whatever his name is, has to know that reality, that he's now lost. They lost their coach. Their organization is reeling. And Aaron Rodgers made no difference for you, buddy. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed making the playoffs just to get crushed.
Yeah, the same season with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields a year ago. And
they could have done the same. Yeah, they could have done the same thing with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback.
Yeah, they could have, which is crazy. There was Rodgers on the way. We don't have to do the whole Rodgers thing. I don't have it in me to do it again, but
I just had to take a shot at this loser because
sure.
He shows up. He has an obsession with the Jets. Like, he just goes onto every Jets site and makes these comments.
Okay.
Like, as if Aaron Rodgers would have changed our life if he stayed. You know what would have happened if Aaron Rodgers stayed? We would have won 5 or 6 games. We would still be just as miserable, but we wouldn't have the number 2 pick. And that's what it would be.
They wouldn't have all the draft capital. And They probably would have had to trade away Garrett Wilson and all that fun stuff. So
I'm happy the way it ended up because at least we have the 2nd pick.
Back to Dominique with the super chat. Thank you for the support. It says, any chance we stack this defense this draft and grab Will Levis or AR5? If our defense shows improvement, could we get away with another year of tanking? Can we get away with it as Jet fans? Yeah, probably. Can Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji? I would say probably not. Do you like either Will Levis or Anthony Richardson?
I do not like Anthony Richardson. I am done on him. He doesn't have the football IQ. It's clear as day. They pointed it out even before he got hurt. He does not pick up on things. It's not there. Levis is a little bit more of a question mark because he's another guy. I think that Young in Carolina, what Young's season did in Carolina, what their quarterback did in Carolina, is showing us that we're impatient sometimes. And I know that's true for Richardson too, but I think Richardson was always like a Trey Lance kind of draft pick. He was always like, oh my God, he's such a great athlete. Oh my God, if he could figure it out and process and go, like, he could be so good, but he's not. It's like it doesn't look like he is. And I could be wrong. Maybe he's going to be a superstar. But Levis, I would rather have, again, Malik Willis. I'd rather go for him. But Levis there's a possibility that he was judged too quickly. There's a possibility. But I don't think that Aaron Glenn is risking his job on that. Like, I don't think you're going to roll your dice because if you bring in a guy like Levis, he could just be terrible. And then you're gone. You're out of a job.
And that was going to be my argument or my claim for this, is that I think Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are too much of a project, and not that, some of the answers that we've ran through in Marcus Mariota or training for Tanner McKee or whatever are these great, no doubt, absolute hit options. But I just think with the variance that you can get, like Richardson, even going back to his days in college, he was an inaccurate passer in college. And the hope was, he would have the Josh Allen, right? A bad completion percentage in Wyoming, bad in the first year or two in the league, and then hits his stride. That it hasn't improved, unfortunately, for Anthony Richardson. So, and Will Levis gives me major Zach Wilson vibes. The turnover, I mean, look at the turnover he had against the Jets last year in that game in week 2. He had one of those every week, one of those head scratchers. And I can't deal with that kind of frustration anymore, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's hard. You want to see, I think that, being that they want to stay employed, whatever they're going to do, there got to be some evidence of success. Like, there has to be some inkling of evidence on film that they could be successful, right? So that's why I keep bringing up Malik, because it's like, at least there's some film of him succeeding and playing like a good quarterback in the NFL, right? Even though it's a very small sample size. But I think that there has to be that. I don't think you could take a guy that's a project that has not panned out and say, we're going to be the ones to make him pan out, because that just happens so much for the Jets that are, who have we taken as a project that didn't work out somewhere and made them work out here? Vinny Testaverde, I guess, but we had Parcells. So
Yeah, no, very valid point. I like this one from Nola. He's saying Kirk Cousins gives us the best chance to evaluate Tanner as an OC next season. A quarterback that knows defenses and knows how to check out of plays at the line of scrimmage. Please try to get Kirk and a rookie. You know what? I was actually honestly relatively surprised with Kirk Cousins this year. I didn't think he would look very good coming back from the injury, but really how he finished the year, I thought he played fine. He wasn't great. He's obviously nowhere near the player that he once was, but he looked a lot better than what he did in 2024, his first year after the injury.
yeah, look, I never thought he was bad. I think that, and I think this is a really smart comment, because it is a good way to evaluate Tanner, because I think Kirk Cousins very evidently is, if you put him in a good system, he puts up good results, right? I mean, that's kind of the way it looks to me. So if Kirk Cousins came and suddenly was really, he's getting older, but if he put up a really decent year, and started to look a little bit more like who he was in Minnesota, that's a really good, that would reflect really well on Tanner.
Yeah. It
Right.
would. I think you want to know or have a better idea what he is as an offensive coordinator going into 2027.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins and a rookie. Kirk Cousins and Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck, Drew Aller. I don't know who's our guy.
Yeah, I mean it's just you're throwing a dart, right? Like, you're throwing a dart, and the dart that you're throwing is not a elimination of taking a guy next year. Like, that's got to be the key thing. Like, if you're gonna throw a dart, you can't then, unless they play and shine and are amazing, you cannot just say, well, we're not going to take a quarterback because we took this guy in the 4th round or whatever it is, the 2nd round, even though we've never seen him play. And that's going to be the reason why we just let somebody pass us by on the draft board in 27. Like, we've got to, the only way we are not going to take a quarterback in 2027 in that draft is if we strike gold. If we pick up somebody and they just shine, they just, we throw that dart, we pick up a guy like Ty Simpson, and in some reason he gets to play and he's freaking amazing. And then it's like that's the greatest outcome in the world for us, because then we could use all 3 picks on position players, and that means we use both 1st-round picks on position players this year. So what an incredible incredible result that would be.
Yeah, that would be obviously best case scenario. And you never know, it happens. It's not a crazy high scenario, all right, or a high likelihood, but it does happen. Johnny Boy chimes in, says more back to Oregon Ducks than play for us and makes $55 million. I guess, well, is this saying he would rather go back to Oregon than play for us? Or is this he's going back to Oregon and next year the Jets are going to draft him anyway and he's going to get the $55 million a year from now from the Jets?
I think he's making a calculated gamble. I think he's saying, I want to stay in school. I want to run it back. I want to win a national championship. I believe in myself, especially in the Oregon system. I believe in that system that regardless, I'm going to put up great numbers. I'm going to have a great year and I'm going to get that same money. But I want to just take a shot at it because I don't want my college career to end with the sour taste in my mouth. And there might be some fear because everybody is acting so convinced he was going to go, the Jets were going to take him. It may have ended up that he didn't get drafted in the top 10. It may have been that his scout, they felt things out and said, you know what, by the time we get to April, there's going to be enough bad taste in people's mouths that, we saw Shedeur Sanders at this time last year. Everyone thought he was going to be 1 or 2. He dropped to the 5th. Now he dropped to the 5th round for different reasons. Now I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying things can change. Maybe they weren't convinced. Maybe they weren't convinced he was going to go top 3. I think he would have. Even if the Jets didn't take him, I think somebody would have taken a shot at him. But I just definitely don't think it was. I don't want to go specifically to the New York Jets because next year he might go to the New York Jets or the Cleveland Browns or some other crappy team. That's a terrible situation because that's where most top 3 quarterbacks selected go. They go to really bad organizations or really bad teams.
Here's another interesting question from our guy. Dominique says, chances Colts 2027 pick is higher than ours. I mean, anything's possible. I would think the Jets are going to have the highest of the 3 between the Jets, Colts, and Dallas. But I don't know. Is it crazy to say that all 3 of those picks are going to be top 18 picks?
Well, I mean, that's the way it worked out this year. And next year they don't get. I mean, the Colts don't have a quarterback, right? And Daniel Jones is not only a free agent, but even if they bring him back, he's not starting the season. And then he's coming back from the. We all have seen him struggle when he came back from injury. When the Giants brought him back from injury, he was unplayable. He was so bad, right? So he hasn't responded well immediately after coming back from injury. So the Colts, we don't know yet because we have to see what they do about quarterback, but they collapsed and lost their last 7 games. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to that organization, so what if we got a Kirk Cousins or got some quarterback, and what if we drafted well and actually won 6 or 7 games? It's possible the Colts could come out and win 4 or 5. Like, we don't know. And then Dallas, to me, is just because it's not going to, I mean, Dallas, Green Bay. Dallas is the one that didn't make the playoffs. They seem to overhype themselves every year, and then they disappoint. So remember about Dallas is if their quarterback gets hurt, I'm not wishing it. I'm just saying if Dak was to get hurt sometime in the first 3 weeks, because he's had that kind of career where every other year he gets hurt and loses and misses a lot of time, Dallas ain't making the playoffs. Right? I mean, that's what pretty much it equates to. They're going to lose a lot. They're not going to win a lot of games. So I'm just saying anything, and anything could happen. But if I was betting my life on it, I'm going to bet the Jets have the highest pick.
Probably that's usually the way that it works. But it also, I mean, hey, it could be Green Bay's pick. What if Green Bay has a bad year? I would say that's probably the least likely outcome of all of them. But you never know. Jordan Love gets hurt, things go off the rails, and Matt LaFleur gets fired. Things are moving. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts are either going to be, you look at those, it's going to be which team are we going to see next year? Are we going to see the team was, wow, these coaching staff is great. They're getting so much out of these players. They play like a team. They're really good. They're 7-1. Like, are we getting that version of the Colts, like bouncing back to become that team again? Or are we getting the team that completely imploded and now is in a tailspin? Because how many times have you seen a team do that where they lose their last 7 games or whatever, and then they come out and they're one of the worst teams in football? So we have to see. We don't know what direction that organization is going.
No, and we're not going to know, obviously, until next year. And another great point by you with the Daniel Jones injury, not only is that going to be like, hey, are we going to bring him back or not? He's a free agent. But even if their plan was to bring him back, he's probably not going to be ready to go at the beginning of the year. So then what's the move in the interim until he is healthy? Don't know.
Right. So if their plan is to bring back Jones, they have to have a double plan because they have to say, okay, what are we going to do for the first 6 games of the year? Because he's probably going to be on the pup, right? Like he's probably going to miss the first 6 games.
Easily. I think he easily does. He got hurt late. It was the last month of the year by the time that he got hurt?
Pretty much like end of November.
Exactly. So it's going to be a little bit from him.
I mean, coming back from that injury, you're looking at, what, October at the soonest?
Yeah, that might be optimistic, honestly.
Yeah, optimistically, right. And you don't want to rush back from that. So he's not a very good, like he's never had really good senses about pressure too.
No.
Like it's not like he's this, like you'd have to be really cautious with him because he takes a lot of hits.
And even before this, he got hurt a lot with the Giants. He was hurt almost every year.
Yeah, and he doesn't come back quick. Remember, he came back from that injury, and he was like, he he couldn't complete passes. He was off target. Like it took him time to really get back in. I don't know what the Colts did, what secret sauce they gave him. He looked much better, but he had a year for the Giants where he looked really good, where he earned that second contract. So he's had that kind of career where he's had 2 good years, but then the rest of it has been so terrible. You don't know what he's going to look like coming back from an injury like that.
We got an interesting one from Cool Stooge. Thank you so much for the super chat. Says, touching on Reese's coverage ability, he allowed an 80% completion rate, only forced 1 incompletion, allowed 100% or 100 passer rating when targeted. Bane is at least a better rush/run defender. I wouldn't be drafting Arvell Reese to play him in coverage as a standard linebacker. I would be having him more as a 4-3, hand in the ground, get after it kind of a guy.
I think he would be utilized like if it's a 4-3, he's an edge. But if if they played a 3-4, it's not. I think he'd still be an outside linebacker used like an edge. Like he'd be like used as a pass rusher. But I think that I don't know. These stats are true. I mean, the way he's rated and talked about, what I've read and what I've seen on film, he's quick. He comes from a background of like he played safety. Like he comes from he comes as with a background as a guy is able to cover. But that's not obviously you're not drafting him for that reason, right? We're not. You can get a guy in the 3rd rounds. You can get a linebacker that's really good at covering tight ends, right? We would be drafting him for the hope of 13 to 16, the dream of 18 to 20. We're drafting him to be a dominant pass rusher.
Exactly. JJ Hamza's hanging out with us, and he's saying, so glad Moore is going back to school. If you're not a Dante Moore fan, I get it, because this then takes Dante Moore out of the running for the Jets at the number 2 pick. However, my argument would be, if you don't want Dante Moore, I think you still want him to come out, so it gives the Jets more flexibility in the NFL draft, personally. But
yeah, it's so funny because I was so torn, because I was like, I want him to come out so the pick has more value, but I don't know if I want I don't know if I want to take him. That was my dilemma, so like part of it is like almost like relief that at least we're not taking him. And again, it's not even because I don't think he could be a good NFL quarterback. It's because I'm so uncertain. And to me, I just want to feel a little bit better about the guy we pick. I want to feel more certain about it. I know it's never a certainty, but with him, it was too much of a coin toss, because you have to remember what's riding on it. Like if he just ends up being one of those quarterbacks that doesn't hit, like we're think of how screwed we would be.
Yeah, no, it's the 100% the truth, right? Then you're just in that same spot that you were when you missed on Zach Wilson, right? So,
oh my God, that could equate to 3 to 5 more years without the playoffs. Like I just can't. I can't even go there. No. Can't imagine what that would be like if that happens. I mean, I know it could happen, but I don't want to imagine that happening.
No. Hamza says, I would take Aller in the 3rd. I know we don't have a 3rd, but we could get one. So trading down. I think that's probably the range for him. 3rd or 4th round. It wouldn't shock me if he snuck into day 2. But I don't think he's a 2nd rounder.
I mean, it wouldn't. It's like he doesn't just like. You could argue like he shouldn't be graded as one, but it only takes one GM in this league. It only takes 1 or 2, or like it only it literally only takes one GM to, like, we've seen more shocking things than that, to say I love the guy's attributes, I love this, I love that. We've seen crazy things happen. And especially when it comes to quarterbacks. So there could be a GM out there that just loves him. I mean, let's say there's a GM that's a lot like Tony the GM. Because if Tony the GM was an NFL GM,
he'd be the number 1 pick.
He would grab him as soon as he could. Like he wouldn't take any chances. So if you had a guy that even liked him half as much as Tony the GM likes him, that guy's going to grab him in the 2nd round. So it's really hard to predict, because it only takes one GM, and we've seen teams do crazy things we didn't see coming. When Atlanta signed Kirk Cousins and only to then draft Penix with the 7th pick, I mean, it was shocking. right? We
That
were
was
like,
one of the
what's this happening?
all-time that was one of the all-time reactions of all of us at the main event on Long Island doing that reaction. That was something special.
It was one of the
Shocking.
most shocking picks I've ever seen for another team. Like I was really the last thing in the world I saw coming was Atlanta taking Penix.
Dano says, "Is 2026 washed already? Be honest. Go Ducks." Dano's, I'm sure, in a way, happy that his quarterback's going back, but probably would have liked him on his New York Jets as well. Already washed. I'm never gonna completely throw in the towel in January when the season doesn't start until September. But they're gonna need a lot of, I'll say it like this, they're gonna need a lot of things to really break right and go their way for the massive improvement that we're hoping for this year.
Yeah, like I'm gonna say it's all about like expectations. It's not washed to me because I'm not like to me. If we don't make the playoffs, that doesn't mean it's washed. Like there's still not that I'm thrilled about it, but there's still some things that there's things that could be put that can create a situation that we're in 12 months from now we're feeling much better, right? There are things that can happen that are making us feel better than we feel right now. Like however this draft comes out, what if they hit? What if we got studs? What if we take Reese and he just is like, oh my God, like just a force so that he makes like a huge impact on our defense, like a needle moving type player, like there are things that could develop that could have us feeling much better. So where we don't feel like, oh, this was just a wash this season. Like there's still things to root for, even if we don't make the playoffs and we're not able to make this miracle turnaround, there's still things that can make us walk out feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, if Reese has the Micah Parsons, the 13 sacks and defensive rookie of the year, I think we're feeling pretty okay about that piece
Right.
going
And
forward.
it impacts the defense so much that it moves us to even the low 20s, like to
Sure.
like even to the low 20s. Maybe, because people say Jeremy is smoking crack if you think we can get into the top 15 with this roster. But like what if he's such an impact that it helps other things, right? Like the cornerbacks don't have to cover the receivers as long. It's like it opens up things for the other defensive linemen, like things one player could make a tremendous impact. We see it all the time. So what if that happened? I mean, again, it's like we're not happy. We didn't make the playoffs. We're pissed about that. But then again, we could say, okay, something came out of that year that was very positive. That gives us something to build hope and look forward to moving forward.
Hamza chimes in and says, if you take Reese, great talent, then you need to go to the 3-4. I don't know if you necessarily have to. I don't see why he couldn't line up as a 4-3 defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that you'd probably want to have him go wide 9, but
Right.
we have to see who the defensive coordinator is going to be. And I think it's a really good point for Hamza to say, let's see who our defensive coordinator is, because there is a chance we're going to take a defensive coordinator where maybe he's not as good a pick as if they really love one of the two edges that are up on top of the board also. Like that is possible. That might be something that happens. I think that it is a good point to just say, hey, before we even think in our minds who we really know or believe we're going to take, why don't we wait until we get the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, and that their plan or what style of defense they run is going to have a big impact on what they're looking at, right? Like if they wanted to switch from a 4-3 to 3-4, they need more linebackers, right? They don't have the linebackers to run that right now. So they would need to really overhaul it. I don't think they would do that. I think they have more of the personnel for a 4-3, so I don't think they change it.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because when you talk about like Wink Martindale, right? He mixes it up, right? But
Yes.
I think his foundation is a 3-4 though. Like he'll line a guy up, he'll line 4 up, he'll give different looks. But I think that in general, he's built around the 3-4 philosophy. I could be wrong about that, but that's my impression. That's what I thought that the Giants were doing when he was there.
Yep. No, you're right. They have run the 3-4 with the Giants.
Right. And then when you think about the fact that, I mean, we don't know that Wink Martindale's going to be the guy, but he's certainly the name we've seen thrown around a lot.
I hope they don't go down the Wink Martindale train personally. I get Greg Williams vibes from him. Old school defensive coach, crazy blitz heavy. Best days are, 5-6 years ago. That wouldn't be my personal preference for defensive coordinator. But you're right, that name has been brought up a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, man, Rusty Spooner, man, he loves Sonny Styles. I love Sonny Styles, but I will not be, but again, and Mekhi Lemon. I mean, like the two of them are probably about equal with me.
Those are two great prospects that I would be thrilled for the Jets to land in the first round. Either one of those guys I'm good with.
And they'll probably turn out we won't have an option. One of them will, at least hopefully one of them will be there. But I don't think both will be on the board at 16. So it won't be that difficult. Like it'll like if the GM is on our page, if I'm the GM, my job would probably not be as hard as I think it's going to be deciding, because I think that one of them will be off the board.
Gotcha. All right, let's go. A couple more here before the close of the top of the hour. Jason Edwards says, I want to trade out of 16 and pick up an additional second. We have so many holes to fill. Happy hump day, my friends. I mean, you could certainly move down and still get a second round pick. You'd probably have to move pretty far. I know this is a shitty answer, but it's going to depend on who's sitting there for you at 16. If Sonny Styles or Lemon are sitting there, I would have a hard time trading out. If those two guys are gone and, everyone else that you kind of like is already off the board, why not?
I mean, what it would take is somebody who like, you want to know how you can get that pick is somebody really loves Mekhi Lemon or Sonny Styles. Like there's some team at like 20 or 21 or whatever, or 22, whatever it is. You have a team that's not that much further behind us that absolutely loves them. And then we would have to, there's a lot of scenarios, right? A lot of ifs. We would have to love Concepcion, right? Like if we were planning on taking Lemon, we'd have to also love him as a prospect and say, oh, well, we could take him and be happy also. Like there has to be whatever position that we're trading out of. If we love a guy, we have to believe that there's a guy that's going to be on the board that we love. Like that's like, otherwise we would never agree to the trade, right? So if we're trading back to 24, there better be on their boards someone that they're super confident is going to be there at 24, that they could say 24 and a second round pick or whatever it is, and a fourth round pick, whatever we got in return, is worth it. Like that's better value for us, because that's how they do it. They do it as value. Like this guy and a second round pick and a fourth round pick versus this guy. That's how you're making your determination. And usually you have to have a backup guy just in case your guy gets taken off the board. You're not screwed. Is there another guy that fits? You gotta, it's a tricky thing being a GM and like making these decisions.
It's hard. That's why a lot of guys get fired every year, Jerry. It's not an easy job to have.
It's not easy stuff. It's not easy stuff. Yeah, you really have to. That's what I like about like that pick at 16. What I really like about that 16, like no matter how I read the board, there's somebody I love. Like even if Lemon and Sonny Styles were gone, that means just based on process of elimination, because everyone can't be gone by 16. Sadiq would be there. You'd have the tight end for more. Like, so there's going to be someone special for us at 16.
Richard says, what will it take to get Mac Jones from San Francisco? Also learn how to spell decision. You know what? Hand up. I was rushing trying to get this stream ready from the time you made the decision until after the fact. And also, if I would like to once again ask Adobe to add spell check in Photoshop, that would make my life a million times easier. But okay, now that we got that out of the way, Mac Jones from San Francisco, 4th round pick. What do you think?
I would think that it would take something. I mean, 4th round would be optimistic. He's played really well in relief of Purdy. That's because of where he is. I mean, we all know that. We all know it's because when you go and you play for, what's his face, Shanahan, he's a quarterback. He's one of those guys, and he has one of those systems that could make somebody that's not successful in a lot of places, be successful. But Purdy has an injury history.
He does.
Mac Jones has been really important part for them to keep them, afloat, they're not going to part with him very easily.
Yeah.
So
So
I
maybe
mean,
it is more than that.
I think a fourth round pick would be optimistic.
Okay. Maybe I missed. They don't have a third, so I guess you're talking about a second round pick for Mac Jones. That doesn't sit well with me because I don't view him as a long
No,
term
no,
man.
no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying getting him with 107, whatever that pick is, I think it's 107 or 106.
Yeah.
Getting Mac Jones with 106, I just think is optimistic. Because you have to think, why would the Niners do that? Like Purdy's been hurt every year.
And he was good. Mac was good for them when he had to come in. So it might be more valuable for them to just hold on to him at that point.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, like I don't think a QB2 has no value. So,
Blitz Crew chimes in and says, would trade down the 2 for someone trading up for Reese with a new D-line coach. Think McDonald will play better. And despite Reese, a modest upgrade. I don't see anyone trading up to 2 now that Dante Moore is out. Now, under Blitz Crew scenario, who's saying that someone would be trading up for Arvell Reese. Do you think that's a real chance, or is that dream kind of dead after the Dante Moore is going back to school thing?
I think what's dead is that we'd get a haul. I don't think it's impossible that somebody will love a player and be willing to give up make a modest trade. You know what I mean? But we're not going to get that haul that you dream of, like all those ones, and like there's no one that anybody's going to do that for. I have a hard time thinking of Reese as a modest upgrade with his ceiling. If you don't believe in him, but if Reese hits his ceiling, we don't have a guy like him that, like, he's a beast against the run. Like, he's not just a pass rusher; he also makes your run defense better. So that's not a modest upgrade for us, right? That's been a problem for us. So I don't think it's modest. I think that his ceiling is not modest. His ceiling is needle moving player, like very, very big, impactful player, like that other teams know when they're playing the Jets, we have to worry about this guy. Like, when you play Cleveland and you're thinking about Myles Garrett, or you play Pittsburgh and you're thinking about Watt, like you're worried about it. Like, that's his ceiling. That's our hope, at least. If we took Reese at 2, that's what we're hoping he is. He's that guy that other teams are very worried about.
All right. So we've reached our hour mark. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Big episode today. Thank you for all the super chats, for all the views. We really appreciate it. I'm Matt. He's Jeremy. We'll catch you guys next time.